Hello, great people. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, through the Department of State Security, popularly called DSS, has cried out to the court for help over the formation of a shadow government by Professor Pat Utomi. The president, through the DSS, is seeking an interlocutory order stopping Professor Pat Utomi and his allies from any activity, any rally, any gathering, or any form of event whatsoever as regards the shadow government. What is an interlocutory order that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is seeking? Is the president panicking? What is the shadow government? Is a shadow government, is it necessary for Nigeria at this point in time? And what is the implication if a shadow government is formed? We'll be dissecting all this and a whole lot more on this episode with your sure plug, Dr. Omosholadeji. First, what is a shadow government? A shadow government is a form of association, or should we say that an alternative government that sells alternative ideas. A shadow government is usually presented by the opposition. The shadow government often exists in a parliamentary system of government, but Nigeria operates a presidential system of government. In a parliamentary system of government, you will see the opposition forming a shadow government. What does that mean? The opposition is trying to create a kind of man marking, which is man mark man, in this, especially in key areas of appointment, in the sense that if there is a minister of finance, the opposition, through their shadow government, we have a shadow minister of finance. The shadow minister of finance is to scrutinize, is to kind of like critique, and is to advise the activities of the substantive minister of finance that is serving under the government. If there is a minister of defense, the shadow government formed by the opposition can also have a shadow minister of finance to be looking into the activities of the substantive minister of finance. So by implication, a shadow government is to present accountability. So by implication, a shadow government is for accountability and alternative ideas. But why is President Bola Ahmed Tinubu government against the formation of a shadow government by Professor Pat Utomi? Professor Pat Utomi is a former presidential candidate under the ADC, and looking at the governance in Nigeria, he thought that, well, I think we need a shadow government to be able to hold the appointees of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and the president himself accountable. Now, let us get this thing right. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu wasn't satisfied with that. He is arguing that the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria gives no room for the formation of a shadow government. So the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu team, through the DSS, approached the court of Justice James Omotosho in the Federal High Court Abuja that they should ban and restrain the activities of the shadow government headed by Professor Pat Utomi. Now, Professor Pat Utomi himself is not in Nigeria at the moment. He will be returning to Nigeria on June 6th, and the court of James Omotosho had initially set June 25 for the hearing of the case, but the DSS now reapproached the court that please grant this interlocutory order, in the sense that if Professor Pat Utomi returns on the 6th, we have intelligence that Professor Pat Utomi is trying to organize a rally, he's trying to organize processions, he's trying to educate people as regards the shadow government, and we feel that this will be harmful to the Nigerian government, and that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu should enjoy his absolute power as president. So there should be no form of shadow government in any way or manner whatsoever. So they approached the court and they are seeking an interlocutory order of the court to restrain the activities of the shadow government by Professor Pat Utomi. And if you look at it, we need to get something right. First, what is a shadow government? No, what is an interlocutory order? I have defined a shadow government for you. What is an interlocutory order? Now, let me give you a definition of it. An interlocutory order or an interlocutory injunction is a temporary court order issued during a legal dispute to prevent one harm to one party while the case is being resolved. It's designed to maintain the status quo until a final judgment can be made, protecting a party from potential irreparable damage before the trial. Now, you have heard the word irreparable damage, you have heard the word protect. So that means that Bola Ahmed Tinubu seeking the interlocutory injunction is begging the court that save me from irreparable damage. Now, what is the irreparable damage, if you may wonder? The DSS is arguing that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu may suffer an irreparable loss because the action of Professor Pat Utomi can lead to unrest. If he organize a rally, definitely the rally can be hijacked. If you organize a protest, the protest can lead to can kind of like blow up into a massive one, and they even reference the End SARS protest in begging the court to grant the interlocutory injunction. This is according to the prayer of the DSS to the Federal High Court of Justice James Omotosho. You may be wondering, why is the DSS going to this extent? It is one thing whether you argue that the action of Professor Pat Utomi can cause unrest or not, but why is the DSS going to this extent? Well, some of you don't know that the DSS was formed mainly for regime protection. It was during the IBB time that the DSS was formed, and IBB formed the DSS apparently for regime protection. You will recall that in the history of Nigeria, there has always been coup, counter coups and all that. So the DSS is mainly formed for regime protection. Babangida formed it. He formed an organization that have no link with the military, so that when Nigeria returns to democracy, definitely there will be an institution of government that can oversee, that can be a secret police, that can be kind of like looking into the protection of the government, so that there won't be any coup d'etat or any kind of like an issue or treason against the government. So that was what the DSS was formed for, and it will interest you to know that the DSS exists and operates for the president. I was listening to a program and they brought a former DSS director, I think by the name Dennis Amakri or something like that. I remember the Amakri, but I can't remember the other name. And the man says that most Nigerians don't know that the DSS was literally almost created for the president. The DSS is a tool in the hands of the president. The DSS is an organization that the president can use as he so wish. So some of you that don't know that the president is very powerful as regards the control of the DSS, now you are aware of it. So the DSS apparently cannot be doing all this without the knowledge of the president. But then, is a shadow government a bad thing? Well, I can tell you that a shadow government is not a bad thing, particularly with the kind of democracy that we practice, that there is little or no accountability. Imagine if we have a shadow minister of works, for instance. The 750-kilometer Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway project that the president just commissioned is section 1 of that particular highway project, that they said the section 1 involves 30 kilometers. If there's a shadow minister of works, the shadow minister of works will be able to scrutinize as regards the cost of that project, will be able to review what that project can actually cost. It will reveal it to Nigerians. It will sell alternative ideas as regards that particular project to Nigerians. It will be able to argue and educate Nigerians as for the usefulness of that project or not, and be able to advise the government what the government is not doing right. That is what a shadow government, and don't forget that, don't mistake it that because they combine shadow with government. No, the shadow government has no political powers. The shadow government has no authority, in the sense that they don't control the police, they don't control the military. They are just it just make, if I can put it this way, it just make the opposition feels good, and it kind of like give them a reality of what governance is like when they eventually take power. In the sense that as a shadow minister of finance, definitely you'll be looking at what Wale Edu, the current minister of finance, is doing, and be taking note and be suggesting ideas and be kind of like giving alternative points to the minister of finance. So a shadow government, to my mind as a political scientist, is sincerely not a bad thing. It is only a strange term to us in Nigeria, because we practice a presidential system of government, and a shadow government apparently is often used during the in a parliamentary system of government. But one thing of concern is, what is President Bola Ahmed Tinubu afraid of? In the sense that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, as strong as he appears to be, seems to be afraid of almost everything, in the sense that he is afraid of opposition coalition. And that's why you will see that the APC is running helter-skelter to win political stalwart from other parties. And that's why you see that right now, it is almost as if campaign has started for 2027. What is President Bola Ahmed Tinubu afraid of? In the sense that he's also afraid of protest. If you mention protest, the government doesn't want any form of protest. And also, the government is apparently afraid of criticisms. So, you may want to ask yourself that in a democracy, what do you want to tolerate. If you are afraid of opposition coalition, if you don't want it to stand, you will recall that people are complaining that INEC is not registering political parties, and they are kind of like blaming the president that, oh, it is his political boys that are apparently working with INEC to forestall the registration of political parties. So the president and his team seem to be afraid of anything and everything. Well, if it is a pro-Tinubu rally, what do you think would happen? Apparently, the DSS would not have stopped it if it's a pro-Tinubu rally. If Professor Pat Utomi is acting in favor of the president, the DSS would not have acted. But then again, let us look at something. You don't expect everybody to act in one way in a democracy. Democracy exists to provide alternative. Democracy exists for alternative ideas. So if you want everybody to think and reason in a particular way, then we don't have a democracy. So I think there is, with profound respect, there's some illiteracy or some kind of like ignorance in the top hierarchy of the DSS as regards this shadow government, in the sense that I think that they should have given Pat Utomi an opportunity to express himself, and they would have acted if Professor Pat Utomi-led shadow government is now acting ultra-vires, which is beyond the power of a shadow government, in the sense that if they are going beyond the normal criticisms and the normal modus operandi of a shadow government, as we've seen in other countries, then the DSS can act. But right now, the DSS seem to be kind of like over panicking. The government seems to be appearing to be intolerant. The DSS seems to be acting on the dictate of the government, which is apparently resistant to criticism, and that is what it appears to be. So I think that the government should give room for some kind of like free speech, in the sense that people cannot protest. Then why can't they form a shadow government? Like I explained to you, a shadow government is not a bad thing, and if you care to know, shadow government is not the problem. It is harmless. What is the if it is practiced the right way, I must say it is harmless. What is Nigeria's problem? Nigeria's problem is terrorism, banditry, killer herdsmen, and these are the things that the DSS can focus on. There are other problems that it is not within the purview of the DSS. It is within the purview of the president and his economic team, such as unemployment, inflation, poverty, eradication of hardship. But the terrorism, the banditry, the killer herdsmen are what the DSS can look into, other than pursuing Pat Utomi and his shadow-led government. So I think that the DSS should kind of like act in a mature way. Well, kudos to them, in the sense that they have been acting in a civilized way anyway. It doesn't cause them to kind of like arrest Pat Utomi, arrest his allies, lock them up perpetually, disobey court order. So kudos to the DSS, I must say, in that regard, for acting civilized, for acting professionally by going to the court for to seek redress rather than abuse of power. It's been an interesting time with you. Subscribe, turn on your notification button, catch up with my past video. See you in my next video. I love you all. Sincere.